Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily today. Yes, it is the much awaited Friday, I tell you. Oh boy, I am Chamberlain, Uso.
Let me laugh. Chamberlain, is only the second day of December.
What?
Good morning.
But
I don't mean to be a day.
But it's a Friday at least, I hope.
Yes, it is. It is a Friday. You're right on that one. Good morning, from Abuja. I'm Maokwe Ogunyusu.
Remember that prophecy from Maokwe yesterday? Well, it has come true already. It's Friday, and a beautiful one at that here in Lagos. I'm Kaido Kikielu.
Indeed, it's an easy Friday, and somebody is glad to be here this morning. Good morning. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo.
I thought that when the ministry announced that there was going to be some sort of break with the construction, at least there would be freer flow of traffic, at least in Lagos, because when you listen to some of the narratives by, is it the NNPC now, as to why you have fuel queues, no supply, and things like that. It's kind of surprising to me, actually, that that is part of the reasons why we're having these fuel queues. Okay, so if that were the case for Lagos, well, how do you explain Abuja then? I just wonder.
Oh, was it fuel queues? I don't know. Was it fuel queues?
They couldn't lift. They said they couldn't get there to lift those products and supply, lift from depots, supply petrol stations, and at this point, I just can't place a finger.
Are you making reference to the statement of the NNPC?
Yeah, both the NNPC and then the Ministry of Works, because when they said they will suspend construction, probably
They're
after
two different things, Chamberlain.
Yeah, but they're all leading to fuel scarcity.
Let's not, no.
Construction on which road?
So, the Ministry of Works said they are suspending construction. Did they say it was because of fuel scarcity?
No, if the NNPC says construction in Lagos is part of the reasons why they can't lift you from the depots, and then the Ministry of Works did announce that they're suspending construction work, number one, you expect freer flow of traffic, and then you expect them to be able to access the depots and lift product and supply. So, if those two scenarios were to play themselves out, how does it work?
That's
okay, maybe I'm missing something.
Yes, you are. Because
what is
Lagos-Ibadan Expressway is where the Ministry of Work says they're suspending construction, to the best of my knowledge, unless there's something else going on around Apapa. If there's nothing else going on
there is construction going on around Apapa.
Okay, but I do know that that is something that's been going on for the longest of times, and we have been getting, that has not had any effect on our petrol supply.
It hasn't?
No, it hasn't, to the best of my knowledge. So there's been construction work, yes, no, we know that, I mean, the PPP that they have with the Dangote, etc., that has been in the pipelines for a while. And we have been getting fuel supply. There's been no problems. So that certainly cannot be the excuse. On Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, we're hoping, I mean, I hear that they're in the last lap now, and they're supposed to have finished this December. It looks like that will not be delivered anymore. And the gridlock it has been causing has been so, let's say, chaotic and stressful. Maybe they have said, let's suspend work so that there's freer flow of traffic, especially in this season. But that doesn't seem to be materializing if Buki's experience yesterday was anything to go by.
Okay, maybe today we'll find out if that has changed.
Yeah, perhaps that has changed. But in terms of what the NNPC said, I don't think that this is a time to be issuing statements. I believe that this is a time to talk to Nigerians and let us ask you questions, please, and let us be very factual about what is going on. That statement was watery. Did not answer a lot of questions, because what Ipman and all the other people who distribute petrol have said is that the price at which they're lifting it from the depots is not what you have approved. That's what they're saying, that the price which you have approved is not being followed, and that's what they're supposed to be selling at the pump. That's the price at which they're lifting from the depot. So what has caused that? You say you have 2 billion liters worth of petrol. Okay, not a problem. At what price are marketers expected to lift it from the depots? I think that's a big bone of contention here, because this has been going on for a while now. We've had transporters saying, oh, look, you have to pay a difference because diesel is not deregulated, and we operate our trucks on diesel. The price of diesel has shot up astronomically, and something must be covering the cost of that. We are not a charity. So there are many questions in terms of what is happening with the logistics around petrol supply. So do not tell us that it is traffic. Come on. It's like when it was initially when I believed that it was because of flooding that, you know, petrol didn't get. It was maybe
but they said
a part of it, but it was not all of it. So let us just not stop.
But don't forget, this is for
Nigerians.
The private depots, not from the NNPC depots. So maybe that's what they need to clarify first. Because if the marketers are saying, well, they lifted at a different price from the NNPC depots, and then the private depots give us a different price, and they can't reconcile the two. So if that were the case, assuming that were the case, are we not supposed to have what? How come they don't have those almost that kind of price on almost all the other depots when they all don't lift from the same place? So those are issues that is a bit confusing that we also need to clarify from the Commission.
Exactly. So you're back to my point. We need clarifications.
No, I still say that they're suspending construction in Lagos about the expressway, of which we'll find out from Buki, who also applied that road this morning, if that has changed, if that was the reason why maybe she arrived to, well,
Buki,
she always arrived anyway.
Yes,
but
the conversation is not happening. Your head is not being shaped behind you.
You go ahead and tell us that.
Chamberlain, if you believe that because of the construction of Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, it somehow has an impact on the availability of fuel, then you would believe that chickens have grown teeth.
No.
It just doesn't. It just doesn't add up.
No.
You know, every other day I apply the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Sometimes I spend 2 hours in traffic. Sometimes I spend more, maybe 3 hours in traffic, and I still get out. So if those you know, fuel tankers are plying that same road, eventually they would come out and supply fuel. So it just doesn't make any sense. Markwa, your explanation seems to be more plausible, and that's why we need some clarification. If the price that they're lifting fuel from the depot is different from the approved price, then the NPDMA has more explanations to do. They have more explaining to do to Nigerians who are buying fuel at different price. I bought fuel earlier this week at 350 naira per litre. Yes, a whopping 350 naira per litre. Why? There are no explanations yet. There's some ease experienced lately from about yesterday when some of our colleagues said they bought fuel at 169 naira per litre. Yesterday, the NPDMA also said that there's sufficient supply that will last at least a month. So if that is the case, then as Chamberlain asked, why do we have different prices at different stations of independent marketers across the country? It doesn't add up yet again. And this is why I you know, wish we had the days of the Department of Petroleum Resources that went round, you know, monitoring filling stations to ensure that indeed those who have the product are not hoarding it, because the NPDMA also talked about hoarding yesterday. That tells us that some stations are hoarding it, waiting in the for the cover of darkness to come, so that they can sell and sell at, you know, highfalutin prices. These are some of the issues that need to be addressed. But that the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway is somehow responsible for this, not at all. And the construction work at Apapa-Oshodi Expressway is also not a plausible explanation for the difficulty, the hardship that Nigerians are experiencing. Just give me a moment to talk about Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. That needs to be looked into. Right. We can't talk about it enough. They said that they were going to you know, suspend construction. And indeed, we don't see officials of Julius Berger on that road anymore. But then why wait till a few more days later to remove the barricades? Now, this now, you know, confirms our position at the start of construction when travelers began to experience difficulty on that road. I said it that they had cordoned off a sizable portion because of the construction, but Mr. Kuti said on the program that that was not the case. But now, you know, the ministry has come out to say that they were removing the barricades to confirm that indeed there was some cordoning off of some portion of that road. It speaks again to poor management. We have a few more days before they said the barricades would be removed. Right. That means that you know, they're losing time of construction work. Every day counts, you know, in the life of that road. So they should manage time. If they're not, if they're not going to suspend work, if they've suspended work and they have not removed barricade, you're losing time that you can use to work, you know. So these are some of the issues. And then when there's an incident on the road, response time makes a whole lot of difference. It could cause traffic well into the following day. So if there's an incident on the road, an articulated vehicle falls, officials of the different emergency agencies should respond in good time, such that travelers can have, a seamless ride on the road.
Two issues now that we brought in. They're related, actually, the fuel queues and then the construction of the road. And they always say that you can fool all of the people some of the time, you can fool some of the people all of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time. There are challenges that still remain clearly. And, listening to Marco and Chamberlain talk about this just reminds me how, the current situation, a lot of the decisions and conversations are made in Abuja for, other states of the Federation. I wonder, when will we get to a point where we can...
sneezes,
everybody catches a cold, right? And ideally, that should not be the case. That's just a typology. And the issues are clear. Ipman has said that, first, there are issues with the depots, that a lot of NNPC depots are not functioning. NNPC should speak to that. As Marquez said, we should be able to get answers to this question, because clearly that excuse about the road construction, because it's been on for a while, so why didn't we have those challenges then? So the depots, what is going on with NNPC depots? Fine, if they've been vandalized, they need to be fixed so that we can have at least better service to all of the people who are trucking it out. Now they've had to rely on private depots who naturally would increase the cost, because of course they have logistic cost as well. And the question Ipman has also raised is, can they have better, logistics management, such that, if you're in this certain area, you know where to go to, not everybody clogging up a certain point. That issue has also been raised. NNPC should speak to it. The issue of Forex as well. So the issues are clear, and then we just say it is a road construction. I felt insulted, I'm going to be honest with you. But you know what? Those are the questions that NNPC should be answering. Not about the road construction, but hey, the road construction is another matter entirely. If we get into it today, we'll not get into the papers. But those are the questions we need NNPC to answer. It's really simple, guys.
Well, yes, clearly, I didn't say that. The announcement by the Ministry of Works on suspension of construction on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway will eventually lead to fuel supply. Two separate things. When the ministry did announce that, I was going to say, look, how has that impacted on the traffic gridlock on the road? That's one thing. And then I was like, incidentally, NNPC reference construction work. So I don't know what stage that construction has gotten. So clearly, they then need to speak a little further than the last time that they did to tell Nigerians what is the cost this time. But, we've been this way before. Several reasons why, but there happens to be a major question that they need to answer about this product, which we'll ask them when they do come. So there you go. All right, that said, let's go right ahead and take a look at some of the dailies. So we'll start off with Vanguard newspaper today, and they are leading with governor's kick as Buhari accuses them of stealing LG funds. So,
second shot fired. Yesterday it was the Minister of State for Finance.
Okay, so let's see, how are they kicking? Autumn not stealing LG funds, Benue replies FG. Buhari's accusation does not apply to us, Kwara, Rivers, Ebonyi governments. We don't tamper with LG funds, Ogun government. Plateau treats LGs fairly, gives them free hand to operate, government. So there you go. This is the response. So clearly there isn't they're suggesting one size doesn't fit all. It's different strokes for different governors in this case, which is what they're saying here. So if you're expecting, okay, well, should there be some sort of NGF response? So if NGF were to respond, you could imagine that these will form part of NGF's response, because I don't think they're about to change their stance, no matter what NGF does say. But it appears they haven't met to come up with a position, the NGF. They usually do when this kind of matters. They just add it to the agenda among several other things. But we'll wait and see what happens if whether or not they should run with this. But in the meantime, I think people will run with this one. So, political violence, rein in your thugs. NSA tells governors. Sometimes you wonder, why do they need this warning in the first place? Why can't you just move in and arrest them? You know where the thugs are. You know they shouldn't be operating. It's not right for them to operate. So why the warning? All right. Let's see. Well, yeah, those are the two big leads on the front page of Vanguard newspaper today. But don't forget, you can check out what is on the back page. Yes, good one for Africa at the World Cup. Morocco advancing, stunning Canada 2-1, and Morocco topping that group. Wow, that was really interesting to watch yesterday. That's Vanguard this morning.
Leadership Friday is a paper I'm looking at this morning, and take a look at what they have. The lead story is flowing from that statement from the NSA. Ahead of 2023 elections, security agencies put governors, politicians on watch list. Page 4 is where you find details. So it's not just the EFCC now. We call that in the wake of the redesign or recoloring, whichever one you decide to go with, according to the CBN governor. The EFCC had said that they had a number of politicians on their watch list, including governors. And it looks like it's not just the EFCC. Security agencies put governors, politicians on watch list. NSA warns against using thugs to disrupt opposition's campaigns. So they also have that story couched a little differently. Says elections will hold, excuse me, as planned next year. In case you're wondering why, you know, phlegm keeps getting in my throat. Harmattan is already in full swing here in the Federal Capital Territory. I don't know what's happening in Lagos, because last I checked, they said it was still raining. Nowadays, those kind of stories are a little strange to me. By November, everywhere is getting very dry here in the FCT. But take a look at this other one, this story here. Nigerians, not God, responsible for nation's woes. That's according to former President Obasanjo. He says Nigeria has got away with a lot of stupid things because of the love of God. So he needs us to be more responsible. I think I've heard this said
for thought.
Yeah, by the Minister of Power of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, who said that, you know, God has enough to do, that we should play our own part. You know, God is...
Yeah, but the thing is, other countries also, quote unquote, worship God. So why is ours different? And they're developing rapidly.
There are big questions, you know, on why our own worship of God seems to be, you know, leading us backward instead of forwards. You're only moving forwards in our individual lives. So we need to ask deeper questions as to why, you know, people seem to be making progress individually, but as a community, as a local government, as a state, the progress is not as well felt. So huge questions, especially when you consider the indices of poverty in our midst. It's something for all of us to really tackle and ask deeper questions of ourselves. Look at this one now. On the back page is conversation with Azu, and he's writing, America, watch your back. The picture there might tell you why that's been captioned in that way. Let's leave it there for Leadership Friday.
You know, major issues you guys have raised. I mean, which God are the people serving? Is it the God of love, the God of peace? Because if that is the case, then we need to see, or is it the God of their stomachs? Big question, really, for Nigerians this morning. But take a look at the Nigerian Tribune. Makwe fired shots at Lagos. Yes, it's still raining. There's harmattan on the side. There's fuel scarcity on the side. There's traffic on the side. I mean, it's Lagos. But take a look at this big one. Buhari blasts governors over theft of LG allocation. Yeah, I mean, I think the president has been particular about ensuring that local governments, states, and all of that have this autonomy, as it were. Signed executive order. He's gone different lengths just to ensure this comes to fruition. The writer says states received 5.03 trillion naira, $3.4 billion support under Buhari is coming from finance minister. And I think, you know, state residents should begin to look at their state governments to say, All right, let's see. What did you do with the funds? The River State governor said, well, this is what I'm doing. He challenged others to speak to that one. It's important. Transparency and accountability. There's a big picture there that shows the situation this time in Abuja. Motorists queuing for fuel in the nation's capital. And under that is this one, uneasy calm in Ire over Obaship tussle. That's coming from Oshun. I was going to say Irie, but it's Ire. Don't make that mistake. Security operatives whisk head of kingmakers away, so something is brewing there. I'll just take this one for you, finally. It's another angle to that one. U.S. used to consult Nigeria before taking decisions on Africa. It's coming from former President OBJ. So, before taking decisions on Africa?
Yeah, it speaks to, the magnificence, the greatness, that Nigeria, had at the time.
It also speaks to...
he talked about how Nigeria was the giant in the sun, not just the giant of Africa that we now, knew her to be, which glory has now been somewhat lost. It was reminiscent, of the conversation between Chamberlain and Malpe, and Malpe was talking about, why our own worship of God has not led to the much desired greatness.
Well, I'm still stuck on that
and you're right when you say that, what God do we worship when you ask that question? We worship God, but then what about our value system?
Yeah, but look at that.
Our value system must reflect, the God that we worship.
Indeed. But U.S. taking decisions on Africa. And I'm still stuck on that one, really. U.S. taking decisions on Africa.
Yeah. Thought for meditation.
Yeah, page 19. I mean, it's Africa. Africa is independent. It's even a continent, not a country. But you know what? Let's leave it there for the Nigerian Tribune. You're wondering what I mean.
Thinking about it as well. All right, from there, let's move to This Nigeria this morning. And it has quite a lot of interesting stories, But let's start with the big story. 13% derivation funds. FG disbursed 1.98 trillion naira to states, says finance minister. Insists Nigeria not broke. Controversial padded 206 billion naira in 2023 budget proposal meant for military equipment. Yeah, that's one clarification. Another clarification. And then she says, humanitarian minister, well, that's in reference to the what was said to the humanitarian minister. And take a look at this one. Wike to Agba, that's Minister of State for Budget and National Planning. Stop speaking on development issues in states you least understand. Why am I not surprised about that? Recall the humanitarian minister accusing state governors of prioritizing capital projects over infrastructure that would aid the movement of agricultural products and help the work of farmers.
That's Minister of State for
Yes, and I recall
budget.
He said that, governors keep building flyovers and you commend them. So the governor building flyovers has responded this morning. Let's take a look at a few more stories before we exit This Nigeria. INEC produces blurred copies of Adeleke's WAEC/GCE certificates before tribunal. The last of the only rider for this one, Oyetola's counsel rejects documents on ground of legibility. That's a page 12 read for you inside This Nigeria. Let's leave it there now for This Nigeria newspaper.
Okay, on to The Guardian next. Again, Buhari accuses governors of stealing LG funds, slowing growth. And so, okay, look at the writers. Pledges to act on NIP's report. Wike berates Agba over comments on governors fueling poverty. We're coming after your thugs. NSA warns governors obstructing opposition campaign. So they just lump all that since it's got to do with governors here today. So, but we don't have an update, okay? Maybe I'm not sure I've read that recently in terms of after the president did make that comment concerning lifting 100 million people out of poverty. Where are we on that at the moment? So if they're accusing governments of slowing growth, I thought we were going to see, well, as a result of that, rather than 10 million, we've only done 5 million because it's a slowing growth. But maybe I'm getting way ahead of myself here, and who knows, they might even release that statement today or speak to the people today about that. You never know, really. But that is a big lead on the front page here today. Critical surgeries, long queues of patients, shortage of consultants, pretend ill for public hospitals. It is a big story here on the front page today. So the health sector taking a hit, as a matter of fact, of that one. 2023, we don't want to be left behind. 30 million PWDs tell INEC candidates. So thought for persons living with disabilities there. So they want INEC to ramp up preparations, inclusive policies for them, and such that they will equally be able to go out there and do what everybody else plans to do on the big day for the forthcoming general elections.
As they rightly should.
Oh, yeah.
Indeed, as they rightly should.
And then you get to see Akwa Ibom YPP Gobert candidate jailed 42 years for corruption. So if it's over 200 and something million, and then about what, 12 or 15 cars. So you'll expect that the chap who's facing that case of what, over 109 million or something like that, maybe will buy maybe like 82 years or something, given the gravity of the crime. Just extrapolating maybe. So.
Or 100 years. Well, you know, some of these things, you find out that the sentences are running concurrently. So at the end of the day, they might not be spending more than 4 years, you know, depending on how many charges they're charged with and what's the longest sentence each one is carrying.
If that were the case,
yeah,
then they'll consider it profitable to steal 100 and something million and do just 4 years.
But do you want to have a stain, a record? And anywhere you go, if you're asked if you have been convicted before, you have to say yes.
It looks like these people don't care.
You wear that tag of ex-convict.
Some of them make up
life.
their mind, but they could get pardoned. Who said some have gotten pardoned?
Yes.
Will those ones still be?
What is the percentage
of those who are getting pardoned?
Yes.
There were their options, but why would someone go for what? Assuming if the courts find that to be true, 109 million.
109.
Is it 9 million?
109 million. Who are you referring to? There's bigger than that. What about the AGF at the Accountant General Federation? We're talking billions, 80 billion.
Oh my God.
And I hear it could be going up. Well, what's happening to that case, by the way? Big story.
God.
Anyways,
it's crazy.
Let me look at what the Daily Times is talking about for you this morning. Yes, everybody has the story on Buhari accusing governors, but the Daily Times says Buhari reveals how governors steal local government funds. So it's not just an accusation. He's also talking about how they do it.
I wonder if they will just go extra mile and say, okay, governors, if you're denying, we're naming you, and you.
We'll ask the president can do it. He doesn't have any.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it would not be a bad idea.
I don't know, maybe legal advisors that'll be scampering around. Says they are responsible for lack of rural development. Promises to act on NIPSS report on strengthening local governance. In fairness to the president, though, I do know that there has been moves. I remember that controversy sparked by the NFRU saying that they wanted to be able to give local governments their funds directly. And there was a kickback, I think. There was a pushback.
A constitutional
from
hiccup,
the
they did argue.
Yeah. So there have been moves at the federal level to see how they can strengthen local governments and make them more autonomous. So that's why the autonomy that has now been introduced in the Constitution, the Constitution Amendment, is extremely important. And people are waiting to see how many states will sign up to it. Well, I know that.
Are people still waiting?
Ayo. It's
still
following
waiting?
up very consistently.
Less than 90 days to elections?
Less than 90 days to elections. But you know the good thing, the National Assembly is still in existence till
how many will attend?
Next year. It's just that the president needs to sign on some of these things before he leaves office. So after elections, of course, he's still president. He'll be president until May the 29th. If it sails through, there will still be room for him to be able to make some of those changes before he leaves. Look at this big reveal here. Nigeria is not broke, says Finance Minister. That is also on the front page. NSA spits fire, brimstone on thugs employed to disrupt opposition's campaigns. And no administration supported states like Buhari's government. That's attributed to the federal government.
Anyway, this government can't borrow anymore, can they? I mean, the budgets, the last of the processes of the budgets is done. So whoever is coming up next, just remember.
Chairman, they still get to implement the 2023 budget until March. I mean, until May when they leave office. So
does that mean they can still borrow?
That's 5 months. If parts of the budget say that they intend to borrow to fund it, why not? They can borrow.
I thought
unless there is a limit to what
if
they
I
can
say,
borrow.
hey, I'm not broke, don't worry, I've got this. And then I come to you and say, look, can you give me some?
That's not how it works for states and federal. That's not how it works in government.
Yeah.
The fact that you say you're not broke doesn't mean
well, we just cannot pay salaries. We can borrow to pay salaries.
Well, Chamberlain, I
That's
think
interesting.
when we speak with the Minister of Finance, we can ask further questions. But this is what she's saying for now. We'll leave it there for daily time. Don't mind Chamberlain and his mischief this morning. It's Friday that gets into him.
You know, that statement reminds me of positive affirmations. I am not poor. I am rich. Nigeria is not broke. But the statistics says...
Even when the circumstances are to the contrary.
So maybe Nigeria is different from Nigerians because the data says Nigerians, 133 million Nigerians are multidimensionally poor, broke.
Even though your debt is overshooting your expenditure and revenue.
So is it positive affirmation or the reality?
There's no remittance, for oil in the last couple of months.
Nigeria is not broke.
Nigeria is not broke.
Say amen to that.
Amen.
Take a look at Daily Trust newspaper. That's what we have for you next. And this is another angle to the finance minister's statement. Nigeria needs no debt relief. FG releases 5.03 trillion, $3.4 billion to states in 7 years. Nigeria's debt stock 42.8 trillion naira in June. DMO. You see, Ghana's debt crisis stirs fears in Nigeria. I was watching proceedings of parliament in Ghana when one of the lawmakers was using football as an it was just like comedy to watch, and you just realize that every nation is actually battling huge challenges. And for Nigeria, it seems we're just resilient. The challenges we have faced, I don't know if some countries face maybe 10% of it. I wonder where they will be today. But that's not an excuse to take people for a ride. So that's the lead on Daily Trust. I'll just take one more for you. This should interest a lot of people. Abuja-Kaduna train service resumes December 5, FG. I think the announcement originally was that it was going to resume in November. But clearly that can't happen anymore. So 2 days or 3 days to go to the resumption of the Abuja-Kaduna train service. I mean, no need to say the issues that have been raised and what we need to look out for. We just wish this service the best. We need to, of course, keep asking the right questions. A couple more stories, really. Ogun LP expels Obi's campaign DG Okupe, 10 others. I'll just leave you there for the Daily Trust newspaper.
You find the details yourself. And Kade just informed us about the resumption of service on the Abuja-Kaduna trains line. Yeah. And you talked about resilience the other time, how Nigerians are resilient. Not many Nigerians, have the opportunity to continue to be resilient under the difficult circumstances. I remember those who died during that attack.
Indeed.
So the politicians, those in government, must do right by Nigerians, especially as we head to the elections. Let's take a look at News Direct, Nigerian News Direct, before we exit the newspaper review segment this morning. And this is in response to the finance minister's big position about the country not being broke. And this is it, 2023 budget, LCCI knocks FG on proposed 10.57 trillion naira loan. Now listen to what the LCCI says. These are the riders. Says debt servicing gulped 664.73 billion naira in Q2, that's quarter 2 of 2022, 664.73 trillion naira. Coyote.
It has to be billion.
Yeah, billion. Yeah. Okay. Advocates higher production, exports expansion to strengthen naira value, seeks better security, friendly policies to boost FDI, warns of job loss with high diesel price and poor power supply. Those are the responses from LCCI, and they're worth, taking a second look at. Let's take a look at a few more stories before we exit the Nigerian News Direct. Look at this one, just very close to the bottom strip. Labour civil servants hail choir governor's commitment to workers' welfare. We need to take a critical look at that to see just how workers are faring in Kwara State. Not just Kwara State now, but in all other states of the Federation.
Don't forget
with
the
the
states are
increasing
saying,
price of, the pump price of fuel and the minimum wage set at, 30,000 naira.
How many states have even gone the whole hog on that one?
Precisely.
And don't forget the states are saying they're not pocketing local government funds. I think about 6 states have said they're not, so we have 30 states left. And the president was a bit precise with the description of the governor. He said a lawyer. So you need to look around.
We need to look beyond the headlines.
Wow.
All right, and lastly, from the Nigerian News Direct, already featured in other papers, but worth mentioning yet again. Drama as INEC produces blank documents as Adeleke's certificate. So we need to ask WAEC, why are the certificates or the certificate now blank? Well,
the tribunal will be asking, is it WAEC? Is it the person who did the copy? I mean, lots of questions, a lot of issues coming up from that tribunal.
They can do a reprint if something happened to the printer somehow.
There you go.
Well, that's it for the papers this morning. Send us your comments, just which of these stories have, caught your fancy and you need to make a very valid point on. We'll be, only too willing to read and share your thoughts. That's it for the newspaper review. We'll begin the discussions right after this break.
government will do that for you. And you'll be called on the carpet and you'll answer questions. We have a lot of politicians, and I'm not being specific about any politician or party. This virus has to be contained. I have given a clear warning during the press conference that any politician who engages in any activity, any unpalatable activity, the use of thugs, and I know we have a lot of thugs, political thugs, we're going to apply everything within the powers of the government. So those elements who think they can deny other people the air to breathe, the political air to breathe and reach out to the local community should have another think. And I've said it before, and I'm saying it again. These political elements should call their thugs, their capo regimes to order. They should have a nice, quiet, fireside chat with them and advise them that when the law enforcement agencies come, there will be no hiding place.
Welcome back. Well, we've got two gentlemen plus one in a moment. Bala Ibrahim is the Director of Publicity for the All Progressives Congress, and sitting beside him is Don Pedro Baseki, who is the Director of Research and Strategy for the PDP Presidential Campaign. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning.
Well, from what the NSA did say, he said he knows that you all have political thugs, and that he's issued that clear warning that they will be coming for that. Let me start with Mr. Ibrahim, since it's a ruling party. Why is there a need in the first place to have these political thugs? Because the NSSIC knows that you forgot them.
Well, I'm happy the NSA said they know them and they are going to go after them. And if these thugs are a nuisance, if the miscreants are not wanted, they are not needed, in the first place, why allow them to even germinate, grow, and operate? I think they ought to have, right from the very beginning, stop this proliferation of thugs. They ought to have done something before they get to the place or position where they become a nuisance to the society. Now, no serious party will want to campaign with thugs. No serious party will want to showcase its achievements or what it wants to do, especially in terms of bringing peace and development in the society through the use of thugs. So, yes, I agree. Some parties have thugs. And thugs...
Doesn't APC have political thugs?
I cannot say, or I will not say the APC does not have political thugs. But you see, how these people emerge to become thugs is a different thing. They come in the name of supporters, and out of the zeal to show their support for the party, they wear the looks of what is called thugs. Some of them are party arrangement for the provision of security. Some of them are party arrangement for mobilization. Some of them are used to provide cover for people who are going to campaign, who will get on podium, who will get to places where there are security challenges. But the motive, the aim of getting them there is not to harass, is not to molest, is not to intimidate people who are coming either to oppose or support. So I agree with the NSC. Yes, the law must play its part. The law must be...
So why can't the APC rein in those thugs then? Well, if they go overboard?
The APC is doing what is supposed to be done by way of enlightening, educating, and campaigning against violence. The APC is always making supporters, I don't want to say thugs, supporters to know that it is the party in power. And as the party in power, no party has interest in peace more than the APC.
But you know that if you give them a different name, you're not admitting that there's a problem and it needs to be solved. Why don't we call a spade a spade?
Yeah, and what do we call them? The society or the system has already classified them as thugs. It will be very difficult to change the nomenclature overnight. Yes, they are so-called thugs, but are they thugs that unleash violence on people? If they do, they must be dealt with accordingly. What the NSA say is that they know them, they are going to go after them, and they are telling the parties they have done so in unmistakable language that should they allow these thugs to operate wrongly, the law is going to take its course.
So, Dr. Baseki, is there any denying as well that the PDP has political thugs too?
I think so far in the public space, we are the victims, not the perpetrators. so far I think even on this channel a couple of weeks ago, there was a necessity for us to cry. If I remember clearly, even the National Peace Committee had to be written, particularly in very direct areas. We all know that, in fact, there's even raising the bar. It has become almost systemic, where governors in certain states have now made it almost a policy of its own governance to deny access to places and use thugs to enforce such denials. And I think even in the statement made by the NSA, General Monguno actually pointed to a majority of them being governors. It was that specific. And if you remember, sometime I think earlier in the month, he also stated clearly that there were 52 indexed violations between October 8 and November 9. So it is important that this be dealt with. I even think that, I agree with Ibrahim, coming to even give this kind of warnings, I think it just fuels the thugs. Let's call them that. They are thugs.
But before you go a little further, Zamfara State government doesn't see it that way, that you are the victim. In fact, they say that PDP was the perpetrator, that PDP thugs were going about destroying property and government property and people's property during the campaign in the name of campaigning, and that they will not have it anymore. In fact, they cautioned the party to rein in their thugs, the PDP in Zamfara.
Yes, and I don't want to say certain parties have raised propaganda to the levels of high art, even when we see it on television. We saw it on TV. I think even it got to a point the National Broadcasting Commission, as well as the broadcasting organizations of Nigeria, had to plead to the Zamfara State Governor, Matawale, to please let peace reign. We saw the same thing happen in Kano. We saw the same thing happen in Maiduguri. I was even in Maiduguri. The attack happened in front of the Shehu
Borno.
Yeah, Shehu Borno's palace. So I think it has come to a point that we call these thugs to order. We are in a situation where thugs have been raised to the level of, let me borrow his word, supporters and security. You see, when you provide thugs as alternative security, is actually an indictment on the success of the system. So let's, like Jonathan said in 2015, the ambitions of any politician is not worth the blood of any Nigerian. We are people, first and foremost, we are humans, and we must understand that power is a game. It's not a do or die affair.
So, and that's where I'd like to start from, because much as you're trying to play the victim card here, a number of people will say, yes, it is the presidential campaign rally of your presidential candidate in some states has suffered some setbacks owing to these incidences of violence. But if governors are the people being, pointed, accusing fingers at here, you also have governors in the PDP who have also been accused of being intolerant of other, would I say, opposition parties within their state, and have refused them to put up billboards, have not allowed them hold campaign rallies, allowed them the use of fields, etc., to do their campaigns, etc. So for me, I would like to take a more holistic look at it, because whether or not we like it, the incidences of violence in our elections have been with us for quite a while. And politicians know, the root cause of this. This is not the first time we have heard about politicians using thugs for elections, and then after elections, they have no use for them again. They are, left fallow, and then they come up to their own devices. Security agencies always point at the fact that criminality, the incidences of criminality increase right after elections, and that's because thugs now do not have anywhere to get their funding from.
Yes.
So the question for me is this something you think can be eradicated? These incidences of, young people, nobody was born a thug. Situation and circumstances, have led people to that sort of life. And oftentimes they find out that there is some profit to be made, at least during a particular season. And afterwards, they are left to fend for themselves. So I want to know if it's something in your mind, you think can be eradicated. These incidences of thuggery and this issue of violence in our elections. Is this something you think can be eradicated?
Until it is eradicated, there is actually no real credible election. And I think the media has a very serious role to play so that they make these kids realize that they are actually the collateral damage at the end of the day. It is important that the politicians, too, should be made to raise the bar. They must live up to the promises they make to the people. And by encouraging, engaging, recruiting thugs as part of their political arsenal, it just shows how benign and how narrow-minded many of them are. I don't have any room in my mind, no matter even if the person is in my party, for the person or persons, even the governors, to come out in the open domain or behind the sanctuary of locked doors to put at risk the people they are actually supposed to serve. It is very important that they understand that it is bestial. It makes them a little less than human. And that is the truth. Because our children, the youth of today, are part and parcel of our collective commonwealth. They must be protected. And it is the duty of those in government, because government primary responsibility is the protection of lives and property of the citizenry. That is cardinal. So if at the end of the day we have governors, whether on any part of the divide, fueling political violence and using thugs to perpetrate themselves in office, those persons must be brought to book and called to order. Even after the elections, that is very key. If they understand the enormity of what, in fact, the Electoral Act states clearly that where there are such levels of violence, elections should not even take place. So I think that it is important for the politicians to be so educated, and for those who they have been using as their cudgel to also be so educated. And that is why I think the media plays such a role. They should also understand that the international community is coming hard on any of these persons. We are indexing them. Everybody sees them. Everybody is a cubicle broadcaster now with our mobile phones. We can see them. So the era of hoodwinking people, playing to the gallery while raising thuggery and political violence to the realms of high art, those days are gone.
You know, I really wish that they were gone. Because this is the period of fuel scarcity. And one of the things that blights maybe it's not really a blight, maybe it's for us to come to terms with our reality. You see a lot of young men, sometimes women too, or will I say ladies, young boys and young girls, standing by the roadside and helping selling fuel in jerry cans. If you drive along the road to the airport from the city gate, you will see them in their numbers. Before you drive from the city gate to, say, maybe ShopRite, you might have counted at least 100 young boys and girls selling petrol in jerry cans. And there are deep questions to ask when you see these young people, because they only come out when there is a scarcity. So there are questions to ask as to when there is no scarcity,
what do they do?
What are they doing? There is huge unemployment in our country today. And for a number of people, that's cannon fodder. If you give somebody who's just looking to eke a living some money, that person might do anything that you say. So the poverty in our system is something that we cannot ignore, and we cannot pretend that politicians have not taken advantage of what is currently in our system. Your party is still in power. Let me come to you, sir. The APC is still in power. It has promised to do something about poverty. Or at least it did promise that it was going to do something about poverty and also, reduce unemployment. The economy was one of the cardinal points upon which President Muhammadu Buhari campaigned. When you see situations like this, circumstances that still provide cannon fodder for electoral violence, what are your thoughts, really? I do not know whether this hits you at all.
Well, anyone with conscience will certainly feel it. Anyone that feels for his life must feel for the life of others. But I can tell you, the government of President Muhammadu Buhari is one government that is passionate, is one government that is considerate, is one government that has taken the feelings of the people into serious consideration. Since coming to power in 2015, the president or the APC government has been doing all it can to ensure employment, to reduce poverty, and to make people more comfortable and secure than the situation that obtained before. And this is why you see this periodic fuel shortage, particularly in a period like now, have gone down seriously since the government took attention to the provision of fuel. Here and there, of course, we have cases like this. And here and there, certainly you will have people who are not comfortable with their own way of living, and they want to take advantage to exploit or extort people when there is fuel scarcity. They come around with jerrycans and they display their wares. But this is not to say these people selling or the ones hawking belong to any particular party. No, they are Nigerians who want to earn extra money or exploit situations. Something has to be done to correct the orientation and make people understand that, look, it is wrong for you to take advantage of situations for your own benefit. In terms of poverty alleviation, this government has proven to the public and the society that, yes, it takes the matter of poverty seriously, and it has come up with policies where stipends are given, where loans are given to people to engage in certain jobs, where humanitarian interventions have been given, and where, like I said, a system has been introduced for people to go work to the farm. And a lot of peasants have been turned into millionaires, especially in rice farming. So really, anybody who looks through the index and look at the statistics properly, you will see to it that no government in recent times has done something towards taking people out of difficulty than the government of APC and Muhammadu Buhari.
Well, Mr. Ibrahim, when you say no government has done much more than this government, but the figures, they don't add up then, because you have seen them. In fact, there's been pointed accusations against your party that they seem to weaponize poverty and ensure that, because we saw that that accusation was all over the place during the last, I think it was Ekiti elections, and they said that the party weaponized poverty, and as such, the people had no choice than to come in there and do their bidding.
Well, it's nothing surprising when people point accusing fingers at the government in power. It's the norm all over the world. The government is or the party in power is not the underdog. It is always the one that is there to be beaten. It's one place the opposition is struggling to get to, and in the process or in that struggle, anything can be said in order to confuse the people to vote for it. Statistics may say something, but the reality speaks a different story. Everyone knows for sure that the government of APC and the government of Muhammadu Buhari have been doing very well in order to reverse the situation that obtained before under the PDP. And the statistics have always been looking at indices that are challengeable, indices that when looked at properly, they could get different interpretation.
For example?
When you look at the number of thugs, the number of people that engage in political misbehavior from 1999, when democracy came, to 2015, juxtapose it with from 2015 to date, you'll find that the figures are lower now than they were before. This is a sign of the reduction of poverty. People are now engaged in productive enterprise as against thuggery and other violent behaviors. Between 1999 and 2015, almost after every election, violence erupts, and it erupts violently. There are vigilantes or thugs club, I may call it, that emerge, and sometimes they are even sponsored by states. We have, they call them in
So there is a thugs club, I see.
Of course, yes, identified. They come in the name of Sarasuka, they come in the name of, they have all sorts of names. But this government, when it came to power 2015, it addressed those problems, and no any such club emerged. That is not to say there are supporters or party stalwarts that have this type of thugs in their company, but they are not allowed to get to the position of recognition by the government. No way.
So, but those figures, okay, well, let's get Mr. Obaseki to respond. Go ahead, please.
You see, everybody in Nigeria knows today that the APC has raised propaganda to the level of high art. For Ibrahim to sit here, when I started talking, I thought I could shit the sword, but I think it's evident that Nigerians have to be saved from the monumental sophistry of the APC. The figures don't lie. The last frame on your TV today was showcasing the multidimensional poverty in Nigeria and how it has skyrocketed since they came to power. Let's not just even go there. Finally, just a few weeks ago, I think it was written by the former deputy governor of the central bank, that on a monthly basis, there is a 20% increase in inflation in Nigeria. It is unheard of. Today, we know today that the purchasing power parity of the Nigerian naira, which means as it affects everybody's purchasing power, has dropped by close to 750%. Nigeria had moved from being the largest economy in the world, in Africa, as recalibrated in 2014 under Jonathan, to becoming the poverty capital of the world. Like you said, they've weaponized poverty, where our take-home pay no longer can take us home. Nigerians are feeling the pinch daily. And for you to sit here and then begin to blame the PDP of 8 years ago, who left a healthy economy, who left a seemingly more safe environment, who did not turn Nigeria into the kidnapping capital of the world. It's just I mean, it's okay. For everybody knows the coloration of the All Progressives Congress in Nigeria. I don't want to go there. Finally, let me just throw this in so that we don't derail, because he went on another tangent. Thuggery is almost a direct derivative of the poverty level within the country. And what she was talking about with the plethora of jerry can carrying fuel sellers, or even within 100 meters, within a kilometer, you have 100 of them. For Ibrahim to sit here and try to say that is as a result of the fact that they want to add a few extra cobbles to their earning. Let me quote Patrick Obayagbo. I think all Nigerians will say "Kabodo rejectamenta" to that. It is sophist. Sorry to say.
Whatever that means, though.
Sophist. I don't know what it means. So to just show you the propensity, how the thing don't bad rich.
All right, let's bring in our colleagues from Lagos.
Thank you, Chamberlain. I just want to ask Mr. Ibrahim, because looking at the figures, the facts released by INEC, for example, regarding violent attacks on its offices, even post-election violence, thuggery, and all of that. There have been 41 incidents across just 3 years. That's 2019, 2021, 2020, and 2021. We've not even talked about 2022 yet. And just within how many weeks we've seen a series of attacks on INEC installations. And I mean, who else will carry that out except those individuals that have been identified by the NSA? So when you say that it's gotten better during this government, just 3 years, we've had 41. If we add this year to it, that will be about 50 or even more. So the facts are there, and I wonder what yardstick you're using to say, because we need to confront these issues. I mean, I don't want us to just sweep it under the carpet and then it'll become a big deal for us during the election and after. So I want us to actually speak to this and ensure that we hold those who are responsible to account, such that we indeed have that free, fair, and transparent election that the president indeed promised. But also regarding the fuel situation, I mean, just this year alone, if you said that it's better during this government, this year alone, Abuja has had almost an unending fuel scarcity. Don't forget, we started this year with a dirty fuel situation. No one has been brought to book about that dirty fuel situation. And now we're ending the year with fuel scarcity. So literally during this year, we've had fuel scarcity day in, day out. So I wonder for you, is it that we sometimes, because of our political affiliation, we don't want to exactly say it as it is, so we don't indict our government? Because really the people know these things and they feel the pinch.
Well, thank you very much. The communication is disconnected, but if I understand you, let me start with the last, which is the issue of fuel scarcity and the adoration of stations with jerry cans. I think you are just saying that, or you said that just in order to entertain the situation. But if history is anything to rely upon, anyone who lives or visited Nigeria before the coming of APC and visits Nigeria now or lives in Nigeria now, even the blind will tell you that the situation as regards fuel supply and the ugly sight at filling station is completely reversed. It's completely reversed. If we're having fuel shortages now, and these are for reasons that have been explained, it's not to say that has been the trend all over the 7 years plus the government has been in power. But before the coming of the government, everyone knows what fuel stations or fueling stations are in Nigeria. So I don't want to elaborate on that, but you know, I know, everybody knows that it is not so. Now, with regards attacks on INEC centers and offices, yes, I agree with you. There is an increase. And I want to suspect there is something sinister. I want to suspect there is a plan by some people to cause chaos and confusion in order to sabotage the election. This, I don't know why, and I don't know who are those behind it, but the security operatives, the NSA particularly, he said they are watching. And I want to see them take action as quickly as possible so that it serves as a deterrent to others. Let's get the perpetrators brought to book. Let us get who are the people that are doing this thing. The feeling is that some people don't want the election to hold peacefully and they should not be allowed to succeed. That's all I could hear from, I've heard from what you are saying, because there is poor communication.
Oh dear. All right, I just was pointing to the fact that, example, in Abuja has had literally fuel scarcity for most part of this year. And I was talking about the dirty fuel situation, which started the year with the different fuel queues and fuel scarcity. Just this year alone, we've had at least 4. I can't remember where. I can't remember where. I can't remember where. Let me go back to Mr. Don Pedro Obaseki on this one, because earlier on when we started with the thuggery situation, I was hoping there would be some sort of commitment, some sort of assurance from you, and by extension your party, that, well, for this election there will be no engagement of thugs, thuggery, violence, or whatever, because you were saying that it's a role of the media, and some were saying, well, would you say to a parent that the media should train your child for you, because these thugs are members of the party, or whatever name you want to call them. So would you be giving Nigerians listening to us right now an assurance that for this election, the PDP, your party, will not engage the services of thugs or whatsoever in any guise?
I thank you, Kayode. In any guise, any form of thuggery or sponsorship of same actually belittles our humanity. That's why I said at the beginning that all the incidences so far, we are more or less the victims. I don't think any party has no right whatsoever to engage in anything that will reduce. In fact, I cannot come in the public domain to defend any one of them. I will rather come in the public domain and ask them to be put in jail. Anybody who wants to sacrifice the life of any singular Nigerian, irrespective of who that person might be, just for the sake of an inordinate political ambition, he is less than bestial. And I'm not here to come and start saying, please, if you notice, we were part and parcel of the National Peace Committee. I remember sometime in September 2020 of this year, even the founder of Channels and some other well-meaning Nigerians were drafted into that committee. And we made a commitment there. And if I remember clearly, with the benefit of hindsight, the only party that didn't show up, the presidential candidate didn't show up, was the APC. So, and I think this shows, and all the states that have been pointed, all the states where INEC offices have been burnt, are also APC states. All the states where the governors have been indicted in putting money on thuggery are also APC states. I remember that woman who is running in the woman running for senatorial seat in Kogi State. She's cried all over the place. A woman. I mean, there is limit to elemental brigandage in the name of anything. So, Kayode, before Nigerians today, I will not have the moral rectitude to defend my party if the party becomes an institutional sponsor of thuggery. And we know those who are doing that. I live in Lagos. You are in Lagos.
Mr. Obaseki.
You know we have become the victims of the political institutional thuggery that has become our daily existence in Lagos.
Mr. Obaseki.
So the fear of Agberos and the fear of sorry, I don't want to mention his name, who have now been raised into, is the beginning of wisdom in Lagos.
Sorry, Mr. Obaseki, if you say that the states where that have been indicted for the use of political thuggery are APC states, you may just have to be patient, you know, for a little while there, because the challenge by the NSA is regardless of political party. The call on state governors to rein on political thuggery is regardless of political party, and I recall that he said that specifically. So if you are here assuring that your party will not use political thugs in this election, are you quite confident about that assurance that you're providing if the challenge by the NSA to governors is regardless of political parties?
I truly believe that General Mongono was being civil. We also have our access to information. What I say here, I mean, Shakespeare says there is no art yet to tell the mind's construction on the face. So I cannot be saying what is in your mind. I can only say that what is in my mind as a person, first and foremost. I cannot defend violence in any guise. I cannot. And I know that it is not part of my principles modus operandi. That is already known in the public domain. We are not involved in the sponsorship, systemic or otherwise, of thuggery. And any one party, any governor, any individual who so steps, and I think I don't want to use the same, the forces of the security forces. No, I think Mr. NSA should be decisive. And I think they should take them out as a deterrent to those who are going to see this election as just another election to waste away one-ton lives of Nigerians.
Your assurance is based on...
Why I called on the media
Obaseki
was that you are the largest, you are the best way to
Mr. Obaseki, your assurance is based on mere
people.
optimism. It's not evidential.
There is not, that is why I said it by telling you, man, that there is no act yet to tell the mind's construction on the face. You cannot tell tomorrow.
Okay.
Tomorrow is yet to happen.
Just before we exit...
we are telling them now that we are serious about, everybody is serious about the fact that thugs should be eliminated, reduced as much as possible.
So just before we exit this point about political thuggery, I don't think we're you know, scrutinizing that challenge by the NSA as much as we should. Now, this is an open challenge by the NSA to state governors to rein in on political thugs, particularly as it has to do with, you know, the issue of tolerance, allowing opposition parties to put up their campaign materials in the state. I mean, these are state governors. These are chief security officers of states charged with the responsibility of, you know, security of lives and property, protecting the people, ensuring an atmosphere for everyone to thrive. And yet, you know, we have this challenge to them to rein in on political thugs. Are we alarmed enough, or are we comfortable, you know, with this seemingly open indictment?
I am not comfortable with it, and I think I've said it in very clear terms. The indictment, I think, should drill down to specifics so that people will not be hiding under that umbrella of saying they say now all of us. If you use one person or one particular governor as a deterrent, the others will fall in line. Because you cannot, Benin say, they not they use man tap, you can say they fear. Now what do you do for your eye? They have to come up and do something.
All right.
If not, is it the heated polity, the level of hunger, the level of angst are spread across the nation.
Okay.
The level of disconnect, both tribal disconnect. So it is necessary for the National Security Advisor's Office and all the plethora of security agencies,
right,
to use 1 or 2 or 3 as practical examples.
Okay, I need to come here.
If that happens, the job will be easier for even the media to help.
All right, I need to come in here, gentlemen. Just hold on for a moment. Let's expand this conversation, really. And we're since joined by Mr. Joseph Durang, who is the North Central Coordinator of Labour Party's PCC. He joins us virtually from the nation's capital, Abuja. Thank you for joining us on the program. You know, it would seem as though everybody is denying the thugs now. It's like the APC saying, well, we don't use thugs. At least we don't use them in that context. PDP says, that's not us. And then I know that your vice presidential candidate yesterday had this press conference where he spoke about various things, especially the threat to the peace accord, which was signed some weeks back. And he mentioned instances which he perceives to be threats to the peace accord from the APC's presidential candidate and the vice presidential candidate, and also from the PDP's presidential candidate. And now I wonder for you, now listening to the gentlemen speak, at least for their party, bearing in mind what the NSA said about thugs, are you convinced that indeed maybe these thugs don't have affiliations, maybe they're just free-spirited, operating on their own? Or do you still think that these parties have, at least themselves, or at least they have a responsibility for the thugs?
Well, when we come on a national television speaking to Nigerians, we should, as much as possible, try to be as sincere as we can. Because the truth, there is nothing anyone can do against the truth. There is a culture that has generally been introduced in the political arena, and that is the culture of using violence in order to win election. Now listen, right from the 16 years of PDP and now the 7.5 years of APC, they have employed the culture of using violence to win election. In fact, some of their leaders are known to be godfathers to the thugs and hoodlums that are in this country. It is an open secret. Now, you see, you cannot use violence in order to win election. If an election is going to be free, fair, and credible, there is no way you can employ violence. Now, the situation we are having today is that the governors of this country have become what they have made themselves. They are empires of themselves. And if I tell you there is no political party that has been intimidated like the Labour Party. When we flagged off our campaign in Nasarawa, the governor denied us the place for us to flag up the campaign. We had to go to a school, an open school field, to do that. And even my brother Obaseki there, his elder brother, denied us place of holding our rally in Benin. And our people, it has come to a point where our people are being intimidated. But you see, we have said that no matter the level of intimidation, Nigerians are already determined that there must be a change in this country. And the change is going to come as Nigerians are going to come out themselves to see to it that the change is made in such a manner that it will be violence-free. The burning of the burning down of INEC offices does not cost anything. We know those that are doing it, and those that are doing it, they know themselves, because it is a culture they have established. But what we know is that Labour Party is going to make it this time around. We are really going to take over the government from them, from the ballot papers. And I was opportune to represent the national chairman at a security meeting in the Inspector General of Police office. And I did make it clear at that meeting that there is a failure of intelligence in Nigeria. The intelligence committee, the community, is not doing their work. And that is why things are happening and nobody is doing anything about it.
Okay.
And this, yes.
You can land on that point and this, because we need to go to break now.
Yeah, I'm saying that the failure of intelligence is as a result of the inefficiency of the department that is responsible for issuing out intelligence before things happen in the country.
All right.
Well, when you say from 1999, that also suggests that your principal cannot be absolved of any of such blame, can he?
Oh, yes, he can, because a man is known by his actions and his words. Now, you remember I did say that it is a culture that has been inculcated into the Nigerian polity by the PDP and the APC. But you see, now it is not going to be business as usual because it is a dawn of a new era. Whatever they had used in the past, I said elections in Nigeria have never been won. Elections in Nigeria from 1999 to date have been rigged. And one of the instrumentality that is used is violence. In order to intimidate.
So does that suggest that when Mr. Peter Obi won as governor, his election was rigged?
No, I never said so. In some cases.
But you said election from 1999. He participated within that period.
Yes, he participated. You remember because of his actions, he was impeached and he had to fight his way in order to get back. He was a different person entirely. He was not part of all their systems. But what I'm saying is that you'll agree with me that this culture has been there. They will intimidate you. They will snatch ballot boxes. They will come and scatter the place with guns and pulling boots. But I am saying that this is a dawn of a new era. The youths of this country and Nigerians in general are determined that this time around, things must work. And all those negative norms that they have used in order to win election are going to be challenged. Are going to be challenged by the electorates. They're going to be challenged by the youths of this country. And no longer will anyone use intimidation in order to win votes or to calculate votes for themselves.
All right, you also did refer to Mr. Obaseki's the brother of not allowing you to say anything. So let's get him to speak to that if that is the case. So Dr. Obaseki, are you also an accomplice in this matter?
Yeah, no. My other brother made it clear. He came up and did a press statement on that because in Edo State, the government gave Peter Obi the best logistic support he had so far. But unfortunately, because of, you see, he was just talking now, he just repeat, you know, not based on facts. And I don't,
so
I don't
what
have
are the facts?
No, the fact is, the rally was to hold on a Saturday, and the application for the use of the stadium was made on a Friday. They had to even publish those things to say this is what happened. But the vehicles that took Peter Obi around, that took him from Edo South to Edo North, is a place of more than 200 kilometers, was provided by the governor of the state. No matter how you look at it, the biggest problem people say about Governor Obaseki is that he's not a politician. So he doesn't look at such things from the narrow political prism. That is the truth. So that is exactly what, and I think that you see, I want to beg Nigerians, like Joseph just did now, we should relax and think it end to end so that we won't be carried away by the jetsam and flotsam of an almost seemingly Nazist movement. That was how we got to Buhari, gra. Now we are doing it now. Again. Now, thank God you just told him that Peter Obi was an integral part of the last outing. We were clamoring for him an article in the PDP. So there is a clear product differentiation. So for you to want to lump us all together when we are the first line victims of the APC, all the promises so cancelled by the APC were promises made against the PDP, and today the PDP that was the collateral victim of the APC, you are trying to say we are saying? You are talking about violence. Meanwhile, you are quoting the last PDP president of Nigeria who refused to unleash the dogs of war in 2015 to keep this nation safe. Meanwhile, the election prior to that, the present president, he's now immune. But in 2011, it was publicly put everywhere. I don't want to speak the Hausa about the dogs and the baboons will be filled with blood. The life of any, the ambition of any politician is not worth the life of any single Nigerian.
Right. Mr.
That is the PDP's position.
So, Mr. Deran, he suggests that he's given us some facts of what transpired and that the vehicle that took your principal to over 200 kilometers was provided by the government, and suggesting that you left out that bit of information. Is that right?
That is not true at all. That's not true. You can see that the rallies that are conducted by Labour Party are organic. In fact, all things are provided by the rank and file membership of the party. The vehicle was provided by the rank and file membership of the party, and you see there was a massive turnout. They never expected. In fact, the whole streets were filled. Obaseki thought that he could frustrate our rally, but by the grace of God, it turned out to be one of the best rallies that we had, because the city was made at a standstill because of that rally that he tried to frustrate. So we should always tell the truth. You see, all this is happening as a result of the failure of both the APC and the PDP. You see, there is a Hausa adage that says, that is to say that when a man is in a shame, he uses madness just to cover up his shame. You see, what is happening is the two political parties have failed Nigerians. And Nigerians are now ready, and Nigerians are now wiser, and they have decided that this is what they want, the party that will give them that which they require. And they have seen a presidential candidate that...
Let me ask you pointedly. When you say some of those scenarios are not true, which of them? When did you apply, when did your party apply to use a venue? He says it was on a Friday, and you wanted to use a venue on a Saturday.
That is not true. We normally give enough notice to every state that we go. We give security notices. We write to the Commissioner of Police in the state. We make sure that everything is done.
We'll correct something about the audio and come back to you. But Mr. Ibrahim, he also suggests that a lot rises and falls with leadership, and your party, being the ruling party, can rein in all of these things going on. So we don't even have to be at this point trying to struggle with containing political thuggery, and that the security agencies are there, and that all they need to do is give them the instructions. No political thuggery. Arrest whoever oxes God.
I agree, and that is one good quality of leadership. Example, to demonstrate to the followers that yes, you have the sterling qualities to guide them, to direct them to do the right thing. When the leadership is right, the followership will also be right. And this is one thing that has been demonstrated by the present leader of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari. He has always been leading from the front and leading by example. He's one person who, at the slightest sign of disrespect for the law, he will rush to stand on the side of the law and insist that the right thing must be done regardless of whose ox is God. He is one leader who has conceded defeat for the party he is in. More than once, more than twice, more than thrice, the APC gubernatorial elections were held and defeated, and he immediately calls and congratulates the winner, who belongs to the opposition party. He does not tolerate a situation where people will object, will resist, will fight, will unleash violence on the street. He says no. And once you see the leader concede defeat...
Sorry, I have to interrupt you here. At what point did this happen? This calling to congratulate the winner.
Anambra, Edo, and in the southwest. So all these
Those were elections where the president wasn't personally involved.
I say his party. Okay. Of course, you cannot have gubernatorial election and a presidential election at the same time.
Yeah, but the president, when you were citing this, it's just so that our viewers are not confused. It's a good thing you provided clarity, because we know that the president contested at least 4 times before he became president. So I was thinking you were referring to any of these other instances, which I know very clearly that did not happen. There was no phone call from him when he lost elections to these other candidates. to congratulate them. He went to court instead.
But thank God you said he went to court. He didn't go to, he didn't use cutlass. In all the elections he contested and lost, he went to court.
No,
so
he used cutlass twice. I was almost a victim.
Okay, well, I don't know.
He used the cutlass on you?
No, he said, I'm using his pawn. He said he didn't, you said he went to court, he didn't use a cutlass.
He didn't use cutlass.
He didn't incite violence. But we are very aware that even Deutsche Welle, Al Jazeera, and the BBC did a documentary on his appearances. It was carried by Liberty Television in Kaduna. And we all remember the phrase. The phrase in English is that baboons and dogs will be filled with blood.
Okay, I think I should educate.
That was when he was the candidate of the CPC, which was 2011, against the same Jonathan. I must agree that of present, we must agree. We shouldn't be partisan here. In the last few weeks of the presidential pronouncements, the president has raised the bar, whether we like it or not. He has made it clear. I saw one of the interviews when the man is talking sternly, you can say that it is imperative that the politicians should allow Nigerians participate free and fairly. And he will and followed after that, the General Moguno, who I think will not be saying the things he's saying without getting clearance from the presidency. So it is clear that there is an open display thus far that the president or the government maybe futuristically look into election violence in Nigeria. And thank God he's not on the ballot.
I think I should use this opportunity to educate my friend, Dr. Obaseki, because I notice you like misinformation. Starting first, well, whoever knows Muhammadu Buhari will tell you he's one person that is seriously against violence. He has never.
Maybe you are doing that within the sanctuary of your lockdown. I'm talking about what is in the public domain. I just quoted sources, and you said misinformation.
Let's see
you
what
should not use your skewed personal.
Dr. Basek,
yeah, I mean, you just indicted me now.
Let's hear the clarification he wants to give. Then
Please.
You'll respond after he. Let's see hear what he wants to say.
He was trying to translate a Hausa phrase the president used. And I am Hausa speaking, but he didn't use the Hausa speaking. He's injecting something that has not been said by the president. One thing I said I noticed is that Dr. Obaseki likes misinformation. Earlier on, he said at the peace accord, all the parties were present, but the APC was not, the APC presidential candidate was not present. I was there. Dr. Kashim Shettima was there.
But the presidential candidate was not.
I don't know what the misinformation is.
When you talk, I don't talk, right? The presidential ticket is a joint ticket. Legally, when you have the president and the vice president, you have the same ticket. When you have the vice president, you don't have the president, you have a representative of the president, is legally valid. The vice president and the national chairman, Senator Abdullah Adamu, were there. There is no higher representation for the party, but that is a different thing. When you say you are talking about parity in the purchasing power of the Naira.
So what about the translation you were, because you said that there wasn't proper, he didn't properly translate it.
Yes, he didn't, I want him to say it. I don't want to say it, but he didn't say it. He was saying the president, Buhari said baboons and something. I want him to quote. I don't want to say it. I want him to quote that.
No,
then I'll tell him
he quoted it wrongly.
There was no place where Muhammad Buhari called on baboons and called on whatever animals he said. There was no place. If he has let him mention, and he said so in Kaduna, it is not true. You see, anything, whatever anyone will say about Muhammad Buhari, violence and corruption are two things you cannot associate him with.
So
you cannot.
Just a moment, sir, because I mean, this particular statement is not a new statement. It was quoted widely.
I want to hear the quote.
In the public domain.
I want to hear the quote.
Some people talked about how that proverb, because they said it was a proverb.
I want to hear the proverb.
Just a moment, I do not speak Hausa.
Yes, but I speak Hausa. So say quote I want the quotation.
If you have a contrary information, you can tell us. But to say that there was nowhere where that statement was made, might be pointing to contrary information which everybody else is aware of.
I cannot help you when you are struggling to get something against me. I cannot help you. Bring the evidence, then I'll counter you. I'm a professional translator, and the language alleged was spoken in my language. So let's take it up in the public space. If at all there is that phrase, bring it and then we'll trash it.
So what did he say from your perspective about that proverb?
Let there be
which
peace.
he quoted.
Let there be peace.
What was that?
People
say it to us in answer then.
should
What was
ensure that elections are conducted freely, fairly, and credibly.
What was the proverb?
It's not for me to say, but I say that is the implication of what he said.
Yeah, but
if you have the phrase, bring it, then I will translate it.
Mr. Ibrahim, you can't talk about, Mr. Ibrahim, you just talk about the implication of what he said.
What
did he say of which you say is the implication? What did he say?
What he said, if I may use, Araka, Akasa, Atsari. Araka, Akasa, Atsari. If I would translate it simply, when there is an election, when you vote, escort the vote. Stand and make sure that you see the result. Protect the vote. And this is what people are misconstruing to say he said you should unleash violence. I'm a professional translator, and I challenge anyone to translate this thing in the language Dr. Obaseki is advancing. There is nowhere you put that. You see, people do innuendos or actions that will provoke reactions violently.
Are you
and
saying
these are the kind
Araka, Akasa means election?
Escort is Araka. Atsari means defend. Tell me how defend means unleash violence. Tell me how escort means violence. Tell me how Atsari to look at, to make sure that you maintain vigil means violence. There is no such place. We translate, but we listen to or watch when people mistranslate.
Yeah, so there's two different things. Now, there is what they call a transliteration, and there's also what they call
a translation.
A translation.
You transliterate a voice, but you translate narratives in writing.
No. Transliteration happened. Well, I don't think we should be going into.
Well, we can go. We can go if you want. I'm free. I was a teacher, and I love this discussion.
Into this is when you try to use word for word what is said in a particular language, which it comes into the English language, which might not carry the exact same meaning.
In translation, you have literal translation. You have direct translation.
Indeed.
It all depends on what you want to convey.
Would you say that the president was mistranslated?
Of course.
And that's a different
Of course,
fish,
misquoted, mistranslated, and misconceived.
Dr. Baseke, is that your perspective?
I feel sorry for Bala. he has the world's most difficult job. To sell to Nigerians what Nigerians live on a daily basis. A narrative so skewed, I wonder how he sleeps.
I sleep very well.
I know, but there are some people who already have a panacea. Life is for them. They don't already take a Panadol. You don't care where the thing knocks. Don't be offended. I feel sorry for him. It is clear that what we are talking, he knows what he's talking about. It was very wrong, very incorrect. But I want him to please take it back. I don't feed people with misinformation. I've come here with facts and data. And I've made it clear to you, you are the one who is coming up with skewed, dovetailing, windy narratives. But I feel sorry for you, and I understand that your job is to sell the world's most unsellable product. And Nigerians have wisen up to it. And for my brother, John Ndiang, please, while trying to raise your candidacy, you do not have to lump us and PDP and APC together. I also want to make you understand that in this 2023 election, Nigeria's future is at stake. And all of us, we have a stake in it to ensure that our kids and our children are not sacrificed at the wanton behest of politicians who next week or next month after the elections, their children will be marrying themselves across party divides. So if you kill yourself for a politician today, the next time you see them, all of them. Kwakwanso was PDP governor of Kano State. Peter Obi was ABGA governor of Anambra State and PDP vice presidential candidate in the last election. So all of them, they have the way of making sure they are. So please, don't kill our people. In my state, there will be little or no violence. Whether the violence is verbal, like was displayed by my ex-governor, Mr. Adams Oshomole, on Wednesday on this same television station, or whether it's physical, as they want to do in Lagos, unleashing MC Oluomo on anything that moves.
I think we'll have Comrade Deran back so that he could go ahead and make the point that he was trying to before we lost him. Comrade, go ahead. You were making a point about whether or not you applied on a Friday, because Dr. Basagi says the government did publish that Labour Party applied on a Friday for an event on a Saturday, and the government provided the vehicle. He was categorical about those two, which you say was not correct. Was that the point you were going to make? Okay, I think it's frozen again as well. So we'll keep trying and see how some of these things work. But don't worry, that's not how BVAS is going to operate. INEC has given us that assurance that BVAS will function properly, as a matter of fact. So, Mr. Ibrahim, when you say the president, yes, a lot rises and falls with leadership, many would have expected that by now, those who were involved with either the raising of INEC offices, wherever they are, by now, the police, of course, they don't need any marching orders. They should have apprehended such persons and ensure that these kind of narratives never happen again. So is that something you're saying, well, the authorities there dropped the ball and that probably moving forward, they should never, ever happen again?
Well, Mr. Chamberlain, I'm happy and proud to tell you that I had a stint as the media advisor to the Inspector General of Police. So I had a very good and close contact with the workings of the police. And I've seen how investigations are conducted. And I've seen how cumbersome investigations can be in Nigeria. And also the frustrations suffered by prosecutors after investigations to get the perpetrators to book because of the dilly-dally and the way the judiciary dragged its feet when matters come to court. So it's something that I would have loved to see moving faster than it is moving now. But I am sure the police, because prior to this time, the Inspector General of Police, Alkali Usman Baba, had organized a workshop and training for police officers where other agencies were invited, including the office of the NSA and the military, so that there will be an interagency collaboration with a view to arresting and containing election situations. So these vandals or these miscreants, the thugs that are operating, I am sure investigation is going on, arrest must have been done. How quick this thing is going to be is what I cannot say.
Okay, because when you mentioned the courts, that's the next stage after they must have arrested the persons and then they're charged to court. But then you talk about investigations going on and certain people are arrested, if I heard you properly. But before that stage where you get to court, if arrests have been made, would it be out of place for them to announce to the country that certain persons have been arrested so that if anybody else is thinking that the police is slow, they should perish that thought? Has any such thing happened?
Well, I'm not in the position to know. That is for the police to say. But I am saying, with my knowledge, with hindsight, I can tell you the police will leave no stone unturned. The police is doing what it takes to ensure that those behind the things are brought to book.
Mr. Brian, you sound like the police now, maybe because you work with them, so that's understandable when you say they leave no stone unturned. But we also saw the brevity, the speed with which the authorities, all working together, incidentally now, when the NSAS protest occurred, they told us who the people are. They said they froze their bank accounts, certain persons were arrested. That was really quick and efficient. Why don't we see the same thing normally now?
You see, I don't want to go into the politics of the NSAS.
No, I'm not talking about the politics of NSAS. I'm talking about the efficiency and efficacy of government agencies who, though are different agencies, they work together very well at that point in time.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I am not saying every case has the same pattern or procedure of prosecution and investigation.
Okay, depending on what the government is interested in doing.
It's not the interest of the government. The main interest of the government is peace and justice. The government has no
interest. Is it not the same interest now?
It is interest.
Why don't we see the same brevity and
it's because we are over anxious. We want to see results before actions are done. You're right, but I assure you.
Let's bring in Comrade.
I told you that my last job is the worst job in the world.
Well, Comrade is... Let's get back to Comrade before we're out of time on this one. Comrade, please go ahead and make your point.
Okay,
Do we have Comrade?
The long and short of it is that whether notice was given short, because we can continue to argue that the fact remains that all the efforts they made to frustrate us for not holding that rally in Benin were able to hold the rally. The rally went on and it was okay. Now, let me make this statement quickly. There are words that are associated with our leaders in Nigeria. For example, the words are synonymous with the names of the following people. For example, General Gawan. You know, there was this saying that Gawan said that to keep Nigeria one is a task that must be done. And then when it came to Jonathan, President Jonathan, we must give it to President Jonathan. President Jonathan said that as far as I'm concerned, my political ambition is not worth the blood of any Nigerian. And then when it came to Buhari, it is all over the newspaper, it is all over everywhere, that he said the dog and the baboon will be soaked in blood. So you can, these words that are associated with these people, it's very clear who are the violent people. And I want to say that as far as we're concerned, I said that this political time that we found ourselves, the 2023 election particularly, is not going to be business as usual anymore. Because we have put up strategies to make sure that as much as possible, all the things they have used to rig elections in the past, thank God for the Electoral Act.
Thank you, Comrade.
All those things will save Nigerians, and Nigerians are ready to come out to defend their votes. By the grace of God, we're going to have the first time in this country when the vote of everyone will count.
All right,
and
just hold on a bit,
one
Comrade.
man, one vote, by the grace of God.
All right, thank you, Comrade.
This is from Musa, and he says Raka Akasa Asari is correct, but your guest, Mr. Ibrahim, did not complete the sentence. He said Buhari also said Wanda Yahanna.
Halakashi.
No.
You have to pardon my Hausa.
It's a lie.
You didn't say so?
You didn't. No, you see, whoever knows Buhari will tell you that such words are not even in his dictionary. Okay. He doesn't use such words at all.
What does it mean, though?
What does he mean that what?
What does halakashi mean?
Kill him. Yes. How can? You can never hear such words from Buhari. No way. Go and, how can? No, not Buhari. Someone who sacrificed his life, who put his life on the line to protect the unity of Nigeria, will come and use such words? People just construct and dish out things that cannot even be accepted.
All right, gentlemen.
I just wonder, sorry, let me just say this quickly.
Yeah.
I wonder, he says, I am misinforming people. Joseph quoted the same thing and said the same exact words I said.
He's your student.
Wait, now, is my student? I can't be my student.
You borrowed from
Madam said the same thing.
She's your student.
Now, somebody who is in his house, who is Hausa, whose name is Musa, I've just said the same thing in Hausa.
They were
so all of us are wrong and you alone are right?
You are misinformed. But
then
the guy
there is
who said,
actually
no, I challenge anyone to bring the place, to bring a clip of where the president. But I tell you, go into the history of Muhammadu Buhari, you will see that those kind of words are not in his dictionary.
I don't know.
All right, Mr. Bala Ibrahim, Director of Publicity for the APC, Dr. Don Pedro Obaseki, Director of Research and Strategy for the PDP Presidential Campaign Council, as well as Joseph Nderang, who is the North Central Coordinator for Labour Party Presidential Campaign Council. Gentlemen, thank you all for your time this morning, and we hope that the agencies will move swiftly, no more warnings, and arrest whoever is found to be breaking the law. Thank you all for your contributions this morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, that's just before we go. We do have some feedback coming through. Abdul Jabbar says, talking about thuggery in politics, says, the use of thugs is as old as democracy in Nigeria. The political parties have a vote set aside for the recruitment of thugs, and they give them protection against the law. They ensure they are released each time they are arrested. What's more, they christen them good boys.
And this is from Professor Olawale. He says political thuggery is common in Nigeria, in Nigerian politics, because of illiteracy, poverty, unemployment among the less privileged. Politicians resort to thuggery where they are not popular or underperformed in order to win elections in such places, they involve the services of thugs.
This one is from Adenikia, where she says, I've heard Nigerians say that some of the criminal elements amongst us are thugs that politicians use during elections and dump them afterwards. Hence, they continue their criminal enterprise. I used to think it was a conspiracy theory. The police also have a role to play. I see these criminal elements going around in broad daylight with sticks, cutlasses, etc., and I wonder the role of the police. I can't even imagine how our leaders have resorted to such evil tactics in order to cling to power. Very shameful.
Well, take a look at this tweet from Festus saying, no doubt the violence and deaths associated with our elections are undermining our democracy. FG should expose and prosecute those causing violence to sabotage the 2020 elections. Time FG walk the talk.
All right, so there you go. Bookie, don't forget, by Monday morning, you would have been the latest person to apply that route to Lagos Ibadan. So we'll expect the latest update that morning, whether or not that directive is being carried out as directed by the Ministry of Works and Housing. Well, that is the show today. We thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain, so goodbye.
Thank you for watching and have a great weekend. I'm
Kayode Okikiolu.
I'm sure to take my house lesson seriously from today. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo. Thank you for watching.